Okay, good morning or good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for joining this joint webinar between Covestro and Linxens Healthcare, the first of its kind, which is going to be about the speeding access to medical electronic skin patches. So today there will be two speakers. I will be the first speaker. My name is Alix Joseph. I'm the Sales and Marketing Director from Linxens Healthcare. And then I will be followed by Karine Bendelaïd from Covestro, who is the Global Segment Medical Specialty Field Manager. So as a start, and before we go deeper into what Linxens does and how we are trying to resolve this problem, I think I would like to highlight the problem with this sentence from the Professor Mayo, who founded the clinic, quite famous clinic. The aim of medicine is to prevent the disease and prolong life, and the idea in medicine is to eliminate the need of a physician. And even though we are not trying really to eliminate the physician, the tools we are helping our customers to build really help to reduce the need by more prevention, being more in the preventive medicine, in the predictive medicine, so we have less need for curative medicine. As a quick introduction about Linxens Group, so Linxens is a French-based international company, a global leader in flexible printed electronic. And to give you an idea of the importance of the group, we estimate today that about 80% of people on the globe utilize a Linxens product every day. So the main activity being the smart card, nothing related to healthcare. I will come there to a minute. But it's a group with an industrial presence, important in Europe and in Asia, with several production and R&D sites, and that identify with the mass volume production of quality products in diverse industries, including the smart card, the government, the IoT, and the healthcare. And going a bit deeper into the healthcare, so we are leading a leader in a trusted medical contract manufacturer, focusing on the remote health. So we have three strategic pillars in terms of technology and industrial process. The biosensors, the stick-to-skin wearable, which will be detailed today, and the authentication and track and trace. These pillars address specific markets like chronic disease, infectious disease, reproductive health, sample tracking, environment testing, asset tracking, many others. To give you a sense about the activity and what it means to be in remote health. So as of today, Linxens has manufactured more than 500 million of electrochemical sensors for point-of-care diagnostics, more than 200 million of RFID label for medical device industry mainly, and more than 30 million stick-to-skin patches for medical applications. So we are really focusing on the mass volume production for a wide accessibility of these tools. And when we talk about remote health, there are 5 major factors we have to keep in mind. The product should be mobile or allow mobility for the patient and the users, being accessible, what I mean economically accessible, reliable. We are talking about medical application, medical use, so it must be highly reliable, even though it is mobile tool. Easy to use. It might be used by physicians, pharmacists, patients directly. So we need to make sure these are very accessible and usable for everyone. And then the distance. The distance means the connectivity. With a remote medicine, we also mean to have decentralization and means connectivity. Basically, two main solutions in the clinical part answer to those requirements, the point of care testing and the stick-to-skin patches. So today we will focus on the stick-to-skin patches, which is one of the, let's say, recent years' revolution in the way we approach preventive medicine. When we talk about creating a patch, it takes a lot of competences, a lot of industrial and technological aspects. I'm not going through this all, but just for people to understand that it's not just, just a sensor and housing or put a tape. It's selecting the right skin adhesive, the insulator, hydrogel, the different sensors, depending what we have to sense, the antenna for the connectivity, as I was meaning. And the problem is each of these bricks is quite unique and complex, and it's even more complex when we have to take all of these together and make them work together. At Linxens, we focus on this end-to-end industrial capability. So the aim is really to listen from the need and to start from material selection, product design, and to take all the process through So selecting the ink for the screen printed electrodes, or could be flexible printed electronics, the converting, the die cutting, the assembly, and the packaging process. We aim to do everything in-house for better control on the quality and the cost, because we know these products are critical in terms of cost, of accessibility and quality, and it's much more convenient for everyone when everything is under control into a single place. So what it takes to create a patch. One of the key aspects, and that's something we insist on and we push on, is to understand how is a product going to be used. What are the not only technical requirements, but basically who is going to use it and how. So where is going to be placed on the body, for how long, what will be the condition of user skin? Are we talking about a baby, an adult, an elder? Is the patch going to be passive or active? Means do you have just sensors, like for monitoring heart activity, or is it active with electrostimulation or heating? Then how many electrodes and what type of electrodes? All of this impacts the design and the material you will have, because these materials will have to interact together at the construction and during the usage of the product. And to give a sense, just to make it everyone clear, that when we talk about a medical product and the time to the market, from the first discussion, we, let's say, talk about some specification and drawings, to the final product, it's easily 2 to 8 year project. So it's something long, and we aim really to work in a partnership, and that involves a lot of players. So it's not only Linxens and the customers, because we talk also with the suppliers, and that's why we are having this discussion and presentation today with Covestro. And each device is unique. So even though we might go with a repeated product for in terms of application, like if we do multiple ECG patch, and to give you a sense, today Linxens is a global leader in manufacturing remote ECG patch. We are the most important one. It's not because we do another ECG patch that we are going to do exactly just the same. The shape would be different, construction would be different, because we are going to use different polymers. Wear time might be different, the user interface, the functions, because there are innovations in polymers that brings more comfort or other features for the patients or for the users, that needs a full redesign of the product just to make it better. And the question is how to ensure a successful and rapid development. Just mentioning it takes 2 to 8 years, to being much better than 8. So we have to follow also the plan of the partner. I go through 2 concrete cases where Linxens is directly involved, and that's something for you to understand. How do we consider every project with the partners, from the technology, from the material, to a product that has a usage? So if we take the cardiac monitoring with a remote ECG patch, you might have just conductive ink, where you have technical features like durability, drying time, biocompatibility, electrical conductivity, many technical features that are needed to select the right ink. Then you go to the tape and the skin adhesive, where you look again for the stretchability, breathability, biocompatibility, many factors that impact the deposition of the ink and the converting with the other polymers. Our job is to select the right material depending on the application, and to get this to fit into an industrial process, which is where we have our expertise. Lamination, converting, cutting, assembly, packaging. All of this is where the expertise of Linxens, working with the partners, suppliers, is going to. Getting the right process to get the right product. Because at the end, we don't want the tape with the conductive ink. We want a remote continuous ECG patch that has a long wear time, comfortable for the patient, easy to place, invisible to wear when you have to wear that for 2 weeks. You want this to be invisible, but also to be water resistant, for example. Another example where it's important to go from the material to the final usage and the final application is an initial product we designed for a customer. So it was designing a sweat microfluidic collector, where you have a polymer collector, a thin microfluidic film, gold electrochemical sensors with functionalization for ion detection, because we wanted to have a sweat monitoring. So we go really from the technological and assembly capabilities to design for the customer named B-Lab for sweat monitoring. It's an armband where you have a sweat collection, sweat analysis for hyponatremia monitoring. and to turn this also into a patch, to extend the concepts to more medical application, where you would have in a patch a sweat collection, the heart monitoring analysis, as we do for the standard ECG, but also you might have sweat analysis in combination for some people fragile from the heart or having some heart conditions that still want to practice. Sweat does have a lot of metabolites, a lot of biomarkers you can process with, but means you need the right selection for the skin adhesive, the right selection for the polymers, because you turn from a rigid armband with a rigid polymers to something flexible, something which is more resistant to the sweat, to the movements, to the motion. And it's important then to innovate, to provide to the people the right polymers, the right patch for just having a single product, simple to use, easy to wear, and very comfortable. And that's how we move from materials, from technology to product and application. And that really makes the link to what I mentioned initially. The aim with those patches we have is really to get people, let's say, to keep them away from hospitals or from the doctors, from the physician, it was mentioned in the first line, is to make sure they have the right monitoring tool to be monitored in the comfortable way, at home, outside, at work, and to allow people to have a normal life with a proper diagnostic tool, with the 24/7 monitoring, depending on the condition. Cardiac monitoring could be pregnancy monitoring, as you see in the picture. You have neurological monitoring, sports application. Application, I don't want to say they are infinite. There's always an end, but there are a lot of possibilities, especially considering the creativeness in industrial processes we have combined with the expertise of companies like Covestro in polymer that fit specific application. I will now leave the floor to Karine. Just as a quick reminder, if you want to ask question, you can ask question at any time. We will have a live Q&A session after the presentation. So you have a button on the top of the window, Q&A. You can click on it, and that opens a side window where you can type in your question, and we will go through at the end of the session. Karine, you can take control.
Thank you, Alix. My pleasure to be here with you today. So I suggest that we dive now a little deeper into the details of the substrate and how we develop the substrates. First, I will start with a few words about Covestro. Covestro is a global plastic manufacturer. We made 14.4 billion euros of sales last year. We have 48 production sites around the world, and we serve multiple industries. In Covestro, we have also a strong focus on innovation. We have more than 1,300 employees in research and development, and we've been pioneering in the field of circular economy for quite some time already. In specialty films in particular, we have a quite large portfolio, which is structured around 3 product lines. We have polycarbonate films, thermoplastic polyurethane films, holographic light guiding films, but I would say in medical we use primarily TPU films because they are intrinsically very breathable, biocompatible, and they have also an outstanding mechanical strength. Because each medical device is unique, like Alix said, we tend to have a kind of modular approach. And this is what we call in specialty films the toolbox approach. What you see on the left side of the screen, this is a picture of a TPU film, which is blown in the manufacturing process. The TPU is going to be extruded through multiple extruders. And thanks to this technology, you can inject multiple TPU formulations with multiple properties into one single film, which is made of up to 5 layers of different TPUs. And this multi-layer film technology enables to have a lot of customization. We can customize product features like breathability of the film. We can embed a vapor barrier, a gas barrier in the film. We can play on the chemistry. We have TPU aromatic ester or ether. We have also TPUs with different types of mechanical properties. We can have also different types of liners. We have polyethylene liners in bond film, polypropylene liner, and we can also adjust the thickness of the liner which is required. We can also adjust the release force between the liner and the TPU film, depending on the speed of the machine that is going to convert it. We have also a lot of colors. Obviously, all of them are medically approved. We have plenty of skin tones from the wound care portfolio, for example, but we have also much more than that, and we can customize any type of color, whether it is blue or gray or any other color. And finally, we can also customize a lot the surface from glossy to extra matte. So at the end of the day, we come up with a solution which is totally unique to the customer, to the manufacturing process, and also to the type of application, the type of device that is using the film. We're not limited in terms of manufacturing technology to the TPU blown film. TPU blown film is good if we want to use a flexible PE liner or a rigid PP liner, which is also very much appreciated in printed electronics. But we also have another manufacturing process that we call cast on carrier. And right now we are about to launch a new type of liner. This is a rigid paper liner, also targeted at printed electronics. And we are also in the middle of the development of a rigid PET liner, also for printed electronics. So the question is, you've seen we can tailor quite a lot, different features. How can we make sure we combine a high level of tailoring of the material and at the same time shorten the time to market for these wearables and patches, which are kind of fast-paced devices? So here I would like to take you through the story of the Covestro Linxens Healthcare Cooperation, because as Alix presented, it takes quite some complexity and some time to develop a patch. We could say exactly the same about the substrate. It takes some time also to develop the substrate. And the keyword here is really about anticipation. So it started in February 2020. That was when we had the first meeting, the first get-to-know meeting between Linxens Healthcare and Covestro. Linxens at that time was curious about the very large portfolio of medical-grade films that we have. They were also interested to learn about the PP liner that we had in development. And after this first meeting, Covestro sent two samples of films. One was a TPU from the portfolio, another one was a TPU still in R&D. Linxens Healthcare make the trial, and they select the TPU film that was still in development, because that was the one that was fitting the best the manufacturing setup of Linxens at that time. After that, also, they provided a lot of very valuable technical feedback to us, which enable us to fine-tune the recipe and even improve much more the performance of the film. At the same time, in the background, there was one OEM who was in the process of developing a new product. And at some point, beginning of 2022, this OEM releases the RFQ. Linxens Healthcare wins this project with the OEM, and they win this project while proposing the newly tried substrate from Covestro. That's why in April 2022, we received our first commercial order from Linxens Healthcare. And for Linxens, it was, I would say, Linxens has been the prime user of this newly developed substrate for the very first time. It's only 6 months later, in November 2022, that we decided to make the official commercial launch of this new material. And at that time, it has been made offerable to a larger audience. So I would say here, the takeaway of this story is that we see that we have anticipated quite a lot. We saved a lot of time in the first part of the discussion of the cooperation, which enabled to get to a successful outcome when it was to reply to the customer bid. It was a win situation. It was a win for Linxens because they got a prime access to a technological premiere with a substrate which has been totally tailored to their manufacturing process. It's been a success also for the customer of Linxens because they've been able to bring the patch even more rapidly onto the market. And it's been also a benefit for us because we've been able to benefit from Linxens' technical expertise, the technical feedback that helped us also bring the material to an even more performing level. So this process, I would say, is kind of usual and a kind of classic process when we go into high level of tailoring and customization. Usually we start with the first trial of a couple of samples, then the customer is going to give us some feedback about the performance, about the processability, and based on that feedback we're going to improve the recipe, the material, and after this improvement we send again a second batch of samples for the final validation. And this loop can be iterated multiple times, but as you can see it can be quite time consuming. So that's the reason why with Linxens in particular, and being aware that wearables are very time sensitive in terms of it's a fast-paced environment, we are working towards a library of substrates for various types of patches. So all the solutions that we developed are tailored to the Linxens healthcare processing conditions. For example, we are familiar with the release force of the liner that I want to have because it depends a lot on the speed of their machine in the roll-to-roll manufacturing process. We know which thickness they're comfortable with, and we can adapt that. We know which type of inks also is suitable because there might be also some interaction between the inks and the substrate. So all this knowledge is extremely valuable. And we end up with solutions which are already tried and validated. And they are ready for multiple applications in patches, whether it could be in dry or in humid environment, as Alix just presented before. And hopefully in the future, this portfolio will continue to grow. So I would say in a nutshell, we've seen that the patch manufacturer working together with the material supplier very early on, that's where, number one, we exceed, I would say, the expectations in terms of product performance. We've been able to reach a very high level of performance and at the same time speed up the time to market for the final product. Ideally, we would have the OEM also joining very early on this discussion and joining the conversation in terms of technical design very early on. We would push even more the boundaries in terms of performance and in terms of speed to the market. And that's it from my side. Thank you for your attention. I give it back to you, Alix.
Alix, you're on mute. Sorry.
Yes, sorry. Yes, thank you, Karen. As you well mentioned, it's really important when a company wants to develop a patch that to very early on go to find the right partners, simply because, as I mentioned, you've seen the different layers and saying that every layers, it's not to find the right only polymer, the right design independently, is to get all of these to work together. So the design will be highly impacted by the material chosen and the material like Covestro providing. It will impact the rest of the process because also all the industrial flow is made to work with specific material, specific design as a setup. And if people go too far into their own designing process, selection of own material without considering the rest of the industrial flow when it goes to mass production, a lot of work has to be redone, repeated, reselection of materials, polymers. So it's really important that you get the right partners engaged from the beginning. So now we will go to the Q&A session. So as I mentioned, you have the Q&A button on the top. You can just click and ask the questions to Karen, to myself, and we will be happy to cover the questions you may have.
All right. I have a question there, maybe for Karen, for Covestro. Like, where are the substrates for printed electronics manufactured?
So far, most of the products are coming from a factory in the north of Germany. But as I said, we are on a continuous improvement in terms of portfolio, and by next year we should have also some capabilities to do the same in our factory in North America. So we would be able to serve, I would say, the European market and the North American market regionally. But I have to say that usually the business is global, so we tend to have also some grades made in Germany being shipped to the US and the other way around. So we will have multiple locations, but right now it's primarily in the north of Germany where it is produced.
Thank you, Karen. And I have another one. How does the cooperation model of Covestro and Linxens differ from the other offerings on the market?
This is a little bit different than the other players, I would say, because what we have observed in printed electronics, the majority of the substrate, they tend to be sold through distribution. So you have a kind of middleman between the converting process, the device assembly, and the material supplier. So if you want to go through distribution, you need to have a kind of one-fits-all solution. And that's not the model that we're having. Number one, we talk directly to our customers. And as I said, we customize quite a lot. And I think that's where we make a difference because we get closer probably to the need and the specificities of the process, while at the same time offering a very, very nice exchange in terms of technical exchange, which is not necessarily possible when you have to deal with distribution.
Thank you. All right, we have another question from Luis. What type of health challenges or health issues are Linxens patches solving?
Good question. So we're not allowed to mention the customer brand. So the majority of the patches that are currently on the market in volumes are the cardiac monitoring patches. For a simple reason, this is today the most mature market. If we exclude the diabetes CGM patches people wear on the arm, the second volumes are ECG patches, and there we are the largest manufacturer in the world for these remote ECG patches to be worn on the chest. Different amount of leads. Then the applications our customers develop, because we just manufacture the patch. We make the design and the manufacturing. We don't do the application part. So we're not going to tell, we don't do the electronic PCB nor the algorithm, the data management. So what we do is to make sure the patch is properly designed and produced to collect the data. So we have patches for neurological monitoring through different type of sensors, electrical sensing or light sensing with a photodiode. We have patches for aesthetics using electrostimulation. We do have, I would say, extended patches in the cardiac monitoring because that's the first features, but then they add other sensing features. So often it combines the cardiac monitoring with vital signs. And we do have patches for call this reproductive health. So it's for pregnancy monitoring, usually covering the fetal well-being.
Thank you, Alix. Massimiliano, please send us the PDF. Yes, of course, we can send it like right after the webinar within the recording. Thank you for your message. All right, we have another one. Can you both comment on sustainability aspects? How are the patch elements handled after use, assuming electronics and battery is removed?
So I can answer for the patch we currently produce for our customers. We have, let's say, I would put them in two categories. You have the patches which have electronics directly embedded into a box, and I think the best for me is to show. We have an example, a dummy patch in my presentation. Yeah, more or less this one. Yes, I thought it was bigger. So if you look at this patch, the left one, which summarize what could be an ECG patch, and you have these green blue boxes, which is a box you can plug in, plug out. Okay, so the patch is a disposable product. So of course, after the usage, it goes to the basket, but the electronic is sent back. Usually, and that's depending on the channel from the customers. They are setting up this channel. They are taking back the electronic box, extracting the data, cleaning the data for reuse. So they recharge the battery, they make sure it's disinfected, and then they send it back to clinics or to the doctors for reuse with the next patient, where they place a patch and then plug in the electronic box. Another version, and I don't have picture here, sorry. Some patches are directly plugged to a machine because, for example, for electrostimulation, in some cases, the stimulation that is used for this specific application would require a too big battery. So they plug patches directly to a machine. So there is no battery as such. It's a machine which is just reuse, and the patch are disposable.
Thank you, Alix. There is another one. So, is there a lot of difference between adhesive, skin contact constructions based on the duration patches are worn?
Can you repeat, please?
Yes, sure. You can read it as well if you want. So, is there a lot of difference between adhesive skin contact constructions based on the duration patches are worn?
Yes, absolutely. Well, first, the skin adhesive, you would definitely not use the same if it's to be worn for an hour or for 2 weeks, or you now have even 4 weeks, I think. Just because if you go for a long wear time adhesive, and after an hour you remove it, you're just going to peel out your skin. You have to think this is meant to be sticky for 2 weeks. If after an hour you want to remove it, it will be extremely sticky and painful. And for example, if you go to elders which have more sensitive skin, it can cause skin problems. And because of the duration of the patch, everything is impacted. I mean, if we go for very long wear time patches, like let's take a 3-week patch, it means the polymers you use, and the inks and everything has to be efficient for 2 weeks. So it means the conductive ink for the electrodes. It has to work the same from the first day to the last day. It has most probably to be resistant to the sweat and to the water, because over 2 or 3 weeks, people are going to take showers. So it's something to be considered. It has to be breathable, because the patch is not moving. It's on a specific location on the body. And if you don't want to cause skin troubles, it has to be breathable and flexible, because of course people are going to move. While if it's a patch for an hour and people just lay down, get the patch, you care a bit less about the flexibility, the breathability, the stretchability. So yes, the wear time impacts all the different layers, the selection of the layers, or the way you are going to create the composition of these layers. And because the layers are different, the assembly process will be different.
Clear. Thanks, Alix, again. And there is a question maybe for you, Karin. What was the specific innovative features in the example of the Covestro and Linxens cooperation on substrates?
So what we have been able to reach in this cooperation is a kind of unprecedented quality of printing. I mean, at least for us, that's the first time we've been able to achieve a very high printing quality that enables this high accuracy of the signal also, without compromising on some other features like the wearability or the mechanical strength of the film. So there is not really a comparable product so far on the market, as I said, which has this high level of customization, high quality of printing, high accuracy of the signal that it can enable, and at the same time, a very good wearing comfort, good breathability, and also good mechanical strength. So that was, I would say, usually getting to a point where you don't compromise and you reach, however, the maximum performance in all these criteria, which are super important for the final user.
Thank you, Karin. And then we have Iman. What can be the price range of ECG patch in the market? You're on mute, Alix.
Again, sorry.
Thanks.
I cannot give the price of how much it's taken to the market, simply because these are like the large medical device companies that are taking this patch to the market. I have no clue what their pricing policies are, and that varies depending on countries. Like the way it's sold in US, in UK, in Spain, in Japan, very different. It's usually, I think, a couple of hundreds of euros. That's what I've seen, general perspective, generally speaking. Considering that includes the patch, the electronic box, which is reusable, and the data analysis or reporting of the data. But then the price will vary in terms of cost of construction, depending on the size of the patch, how many leads you have. So that impact the surface and of course the measurement units. The different features. Is it more stretchable? Is it more flexible? Is it more breathable? Is it for a day? Is it for 3 weeks? All the materials have their cost and then challenges in design which impact the price of the patch and the volume of production, of course. So I cannot give the price of one patch because as we mentioned with Karin, every patch is unique. But the patch itself, it's not what costs a lot in the construction. It's the electronics and the algorithm for the data analytics.
Right. Covestro side, I think, how does the cooperation model of Covestro and Linxens differ from the other offerings on the market? I think we answered this one. Or where are the substrates for printed electronics manufactured?
As I said, it's primarily in north of Germany so far, but we're planning to have also a second manufacturing location soon in the US.
All right, then too many questions, it is good. So I have, you mentioned an adhesive then can last up to 4 weeks. Can you give an example of applications? Where is this used?
Yeah, so
Maybe
the
for
few,
Alix.
yes, the few requests we got, and so far it's not yet on the market as a product, because that brings other challenges. CGM, because people have to wear CGM every day, all along. So that is one main area where companies are looking to have longer wear time. Because currently the patches are designed to last for 2 weeks, and often they fall before because of sweat, because of heat, because of many factors. You have a lot of chronic diseases that requires a permanent monitoring. Typically, you have the cardiac disease, liver disease, or liver insufficiency that requires regular monitoring, regular testing of different biomarkers. You might consider in cancer also. A lot of people under cancer treatment, they are under follow-up for the amount of chemicals they have still in the blood flow, and to know whether they should go earlier or later for the next treatment. So you have more and more applications, and you have also the convenience applications that start to emerge. You've seen from the CGM, it goes more and more to the over the counter, sorry, glucose monitoring. You have more and more of those biomarkers analysis that goes for sports, for well-being, for dietary monitoring. So people tend to monitor their health more and more. When it goes to very specific applications, you want something that is reliable in the monitoring. If I compare to I don't have, sorry, but a smartwatch, where the watch is usually moving, so the sensor is not 24/7 exactly at the same place doing the same measurement, but you have noise and interferences. With a patch, the sensor is sticky, placed on the skin, and having the same measurements from the first to the last usage.
Perfect. And then you have another one, I think. So what type of battery do you prefer to use for patches? If possible, like make 2 or 3 cases.
So today we haven't, just because we haven't got the request. So basically, as I mentioned, the 2 examples I gave, one with the removable box that you can plug in, plug out, or the machine. So in the box, it's usually the small ring batteries, the disposable batteries. In the machines, of course, it's a plug machine on the electrical power. There is a lot of work for the printed batteries. Some of the challenge they got today is, of course, to make sure they are sustainable, because if it's a printed battery that goes to the patch, it means you throw away the battery. So you need to make sure the elements used for making the battery are sustainable. But it's also the power you get in the battery, which is an issue today, compared also to the cost. So for the same cost, you don't get the same amount of energy. So of course, the use time of the patch isn't equal. So there is more and more this request of using sustainable polymers or materials as much as possible, plastics, and sustainable batteries. In any case, the end user we deal with, at least in medical application, they have to set up a recyclable process where they can collect back the electronics for recycling. But for the batteries, it's something still under investigation. There are some, and we are not in there ourselves. There are probably some applications where the power supplied by the printed batteries is enough, but not in the applications we have been involved to.
Thank you, Alix. And we have another one from Luis again. So asking what type of products you are currently mass producing. Maybe it's a question for you both.
Want to start, Karin?
I mean, we're producing materials, so I can talk about a little bit the type of applications. We are also, as Alix mentioned, in the field of ECG, EMG, this kind of application, but we also have a large share of our business in fixation. I've talked a lot about printed electronics, but in wearables, we tend to produce also a lot of breathable films that tend to do the fixation for CGM applications. So as we say that CGM is a large application market right now, it's something where we had also a foot in this market, but not through, I would say, the channel of printed electronics. So yeah, I mean, same conclusion as Alix said. We clearly see CGM, ECG, EMG are the top leading applications so far.
Alix, maybe you want to add something for it?
So the product in mass production, as said, so the ECG patch is number one by far, and just because that's where the market is. So all of the different customers, those commercializing ECG patch, those having the biggest share of the pie. Then we have mainly we call that aesthetics. So let's say it's healthcare. It's not really medical applications, but it's the same construction and same challenges. And those going to be launched now in a matter of weeks. It's going to be reproduction, so pregnancy monitoring, still cardiac monitoring, but I said plus, so cardiac monitoring plus some vital signs. And neurological monitoring, so sleep apnea, sleep analysis is also something we've been working a lot with different partners, and something to come out very, very soon.
Great. Thank you, Luis, for your question. I hope this answered for all. Karin, you mentioned upcoming PU film with paper PET carrier. Could you elaborate on pros of that?
Yes, I mean, in printed electronics, this is important to have a stable carrier, a stable liner, because that's where you're going to have, I would say, the very high quality of printing. And so far, the rigid liner that we have in the portfolio is based on polypropylene, and this is made out of the blown film technology because it's co-extruded together with the TPU film. In the future, by next year, we will launch a paper liner where at least you have even higher temperature resistance with the paper that you cannot achieve not necessarily with PP. So we are expanding, I would say, the portfolio in that direction. So some some inks or for some reason in the process, you need to cure the material at high temperature, and paper is going to be targeted at this type of applications. PET, it's going to follow, I would say, in terms of development. This is more or less the same. There is also a question of setup of the manufacturing of the customers. Some customers already have their manufacturing setup used to deal with PET liners, and we have to adapt also to the market requirements and demands. So that's the reason why we are developing also this additional liner carrier technology.
Thank you, Karine. Again, so maybe the last one that I can see for Alix from Louis again. How many units a year on ECG patch?
As you can imagine, I cannot disclaim exactly what number, because that relates to our customer activity. Multi-millions per every customer. We do several millions per customer. The volume is huge. I cannot say how much shares we have, but we know we are the first manufacturer for those. And as mentioned, so the Linxens identity is in mass volume production. So basically a patch where the customer needs to produce at mass scale a couple of thousands. We wouldn't be the right partner simply just because our industrial tool is not designed, is not set for small volumes. We can do prototyping and small series at the beginning, but at the end we go for the roll-to-roll production, and that's what helps us and the customer to have a mass volume at cost and at quality, very stable. So for the ECG, many millions of units a year. They are all slightly different per customer. So every time we have to set up the plants and configure the production machines. But yes, and I didn't mention, I think, so for the patches specifically, when you saw the different sites, our main manufacturing site, it's in Sweden, in Ängelholm, it's on the west coast, and we also have another site in China, in Tianjin, where we do also most of the steps. So we have like twin factories for addressing different markets.
Thank you, Alix. Well, thank you, Alix and Karine, because I can see that there are no more questions. So thank you all for your interactions here. And yeah, maybe Karine, Alix, if you have a final word.
Please, Karine.
No, I think it's a good start. We're not done. We highlighted the fact it's paving the way to further innovation, and we already have some more projects in the pipe to go closer into the collaboration with Linxens. So more to come. Stay tuned.
Yeah, and I would insist and get people to think about if we put aside the CGM, which started 25 years ago, if I'm not wrong, the use of the patch in medicine is quite new. If I'm not getting wrong, the ECG patch, which are the first to take up in the market, it's a 3-year-old story, probably something like 2020, 2021, accelerated by the COVID pandemic, because then people had to stay away from hospitals, stay away from physicians, and then the remote monitoring habits and requirements and demands has been rising. And that's where also what has been spinning up the innovation at companies like Covestro, driving up new materials to make to drive up the possibilities and applications. Because of course, the more innovative materials we have, that fits from business-wise, you need a material that fits the application, but at cost and at quality, which is very important. If your patch doesn't match the market price at the end of the capabilities of volumes, it's not going to fly. And I really feel we are just at the beginning of what it can do and the way it transforms, because as a remote medicine, the way we approach the self-monitoring, thanks to these constructions, it's going to change a lot our habits and practices. And that's why we need a lot of work in how we build the patches, innovation in polymers, in printed electronics, and collaboration between entities and industrial partners. It's critical.
Thank you. So thank you all for your active participation in this webinar. And of course, we'll be sending the recording like right after. Thank you and have a nice day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you to you.
Thank you, Karine.
Thank you, Alix. Bye-bye.